wants to be a millionaire.
Hello and welcome to Long Live Hooky Street, the podcast where we rewatch and discuss every episode of Britain's most beloved TV comedy Only Fools and Horses. I'm Jenny and I'm joined from Hong Kong by my co-host and sister Heather. Say hello, dude.
Hello!
Today we are discussing Series 5, Episode 2, The Miracle of Peckham. So throw on your Cliff Richard cassette and let's get started.
This episode aired on the BBC at 8:35pm on Sunday, September 7th, 1986. This week's viewing figures were 14.2 million, over 2 million more than last week. Perhaps it was because the kids were back at school, maybe. The UK number one song at this time was still I Want to Wake Up With You by Boris Gardner. And the UK number one movie at this time was Highlander. So let's move on to a little trivia for this week, shall we, dude?
Okay, yeah, let's do that. This episode is one of two to feature Peckham in its title. Can you name the other one?
Sleepless in Peckham.
Got it. This episode is John Sullivan's first dive into the God-fearing side of Del's personality. This is a consistent theme with Del that does return in the future episodes, namely Miami twice, his main reason for running away to Miami.
Yes.
If we look back to Series 1, Episode 3, the second time around, we can revisit the small mention of this storyline from Grandad when he says that Del would always give money to the church for their new roof, since it was him that nicked the old one. Obviously, that's where he got the idea. In this case,
yes. He
isn't the one that stole the roof, but
no.
In a roundabout way, he is. Having said that, John Sullivan does feel it's important for the plot, part of the plot, for the viewer to understand that Del did not steal the lead in this episode, but he still feels very much like he needs to make amends due to his fear of religion and God. This episode marks the shortest studio shoot yet. That's a really hard thing to say. For a standard episode, just 9 minutes of footage were actually shot in front of the live studio audience for this episode. More on the locations in the episode breakdown. Mm-hmm. This episode was the first to be filmed for Series 5. Despite being the second to air, this was one of the episodes directed by Mandy Fletcher. She said, "The Miracle of Peckham was so wonderful, as normally as a sitcom director you have to do multi-camera in the studio, and I suddenly found myself making a little movie. It was fantastic. These lovely location scripts allowed for a lot more than just getting everyone in the shot." And finally, this is a personal one. This was the first ever episode that our family had on VHS recorded from its original airing date on the BBC. So it looks like summer 1986 may have been when we got our first audio-visual equipment and video recorders. Although it worked,
and video recorders.
And video recorders. Although it did work, so we didn't get it from Del Boy. So that's all I have for now. Shall we move on to our rankings for this week, dude?
Yeah, so we're already on Series 5, and our regular listeners will know by now that each week we reveal and compare our rankings for the episode, and prior to recording the entire podcast, we independently ranked all 64 episodes. If you didn't already know all that, then you are not one of our regular punters, so we'd love for you to subscribe to the podcast. We release a new episode every Saturday, and we've been informed by our streaming platforms that most of our listeners are not actually subscribed. So the support really helps us to be able to grow our channel. So we have an Instagram now, we have a Facebook page. So we'd love to see more people following us on our social media, and we love reading your comments. So please do continue to comment on our things, because we love engaging with the people that listen to the podcast and hearing your opinions and thoughts about things. We obviously spend a lot of time making these podcast episodes, so we would really love to have more feedback from everyone and just to engage more with the community that is giving us so much support. We really do appreciate the support. So, dude, your rankings for this episode, would you like to guess mine or shall I guess yours?
Well, we did me guess you last week, so do you want to guess mine this time?
All right. Do you want me to guess exactly?
Yeah, just like I did with you. Just give a number and I'll tell you whether it's higher or lower.
All right. I'm going to guess 23.
That is so close.
Really?
Yeah, it's 25.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right. Do you want to guess mine?
I'm going to guess 20s as well for you. 27?
Ooh, 24.
Oh, they're so close.
I'm 24, you're 25. Yeah, really close on this one. Almost a match.
Now, I think we like this episode better because IMDb ranking is 40. 40?
40?
Yeah, I think we like this one more than most fans, and I'm gonna guess it's because of the tape.
I was gonna say, yeah, first of all, for us, as you mentioned, it holds a special meaning. And yes, when I was watching it back, we can talk about this in the breakdown, but the whole scene in the church between Del and the vicar is actually quite slow.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of jokes in that scene, and it's obviously a character that we don't know. Now, don't get me wrong, I really like the character of the vicar. The vicar? The reverend? The vicar? I don't know. I'm not a Catholic, so I don't know which one it is. So
Well,
which one you say?
He calls him the vicar, doesn't
The
he?
vicar, yeah. But again, I'm not sure if that's right. But anyway, so yeah, I like the character, and I actually really like this conversation. I think I do appreciate this conversation even more now that I'm older, and because it's got lots of extra bits in it that we didn't have. There's so many things cut from this episode. Like, I never realized how many things were cut, because even the original airing, the one we had recorded, doesn't have all these extra bits in it. So I'm not sure where this version came from, actually, because I thought we were watching the original airings.
I don't know, because when I thought that too. I thought we recorded it on the original airing, but one thing I don't know is that how many times the same episodes were repeated on maybe BBC Two or like other channels or something. Because one thing that I really vividly remember about the VHS tape recording that we had is that it had a BAFTA award face before it, like as a preview. Do you remember? It had like the statue of the BAFTA, and then it went into the preview for Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah.
So it could have been a second airing, and I know that they always like chopped little lines here and there for time, because BBC was very strict about running times because they had no ads. That's why they were always like, you can't have 5 minutes because Top of the Pops needs to start or whatever.
I don't know if you noticed this when you were watching the episode, but the parts that were cut, the visual kind of went a bit low quality. It's almost like it was edited back in. Did you notice that?
I don't know. I did not, but I did.
Yeah, I really noticed the actual visual went fuzzy whenever there was a bit that was cut.
The only thing I would say about the parts that were cut out is that it seems like very unnecessary dialogue. It was all like not necessarily funny and unnecessary. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely a lot of them were sort of repeater lines that you can take out and you wouldn't notice. But yeah, I mean, we can talk about that more. But yeah, I think you're right. This episode, as well as something that I mentioned in episodes that I'm not as big a fan of, is a bit of a one-trick pony. And once you know the punchline, that's, But yeah, this was the first time that I heard the music. And that was very sort of really cemented in my mind, very nostalgic.
This is
being
nostalgic,
a kid.
Yeah. That's why we love this one. Yeah. I'm not going to, I mean, I think it's a great episode, but I can totally understand why some people don't love it. And it's very it's
a bit slow compared to other episodes,
and it stands alone because it's so heavily in the church.
Agreed.
Yeah, and it's again it's not one linear storyline. This was one of the first times that we actually have a separate Rodney storyline, right, with the trumpet, even though
but it's only a very
it's
small,
very minor.
Like, it's literally got the opening and the ending is literally that storyline, and then everything else is about the miracle.
Yeah, but I think it might be the first time that we kind of do have a little side plot with Rodney. I'm not sure, because in all later episodes there's two storylines usually running. There's like Del's storyline and Rodney's, whereas in the very first few series it's mostly just one storyline with all of them. Something does feel different about this episode, and I understand why IMDb, it's not low on IMDb, but 40. And we both have it in our mid-20s, so
yes,
I think that the reason for that is because of the nostalgia. So if we are a little bit overly nostalgic and happy about this episode and you don't love it, you'll understand why.
Yes.
You can't take away the feeling, because I still remember just sitting in front of a grainy VHS screen watching this episode over and over as a kid.
So shall we go ahead and start the episode breakdown?
So we open in Nelson Mandela. The episode opens with a hungover Rodney. I think we said we were going to talk about how many episodes start with a hungover Rodney. We need to start tracking that. He looks pretty rough, and he's sitting at the dining table. Albert shuffles in behind him and yells,
"Del! Why don't you just get a megaphone and finish me off quickly?"
Albert is clearly angry with Rodney, and he says that he came into his room last night and made a terrible noise. He soon mentions a trumpet, so Rodney doesn't appear to understand what he means. So Albert keeps going on, and we see that Rodney is suffering through in his hungover state. Albert finally asks Rodney what they were celebrating last week, and we learn that the week's been going very well for the Trotters. We don't see that very often.
No, that's
and
true.
I think anytime they start the episode by saying they're doing well financially, it usually means that the storyline's not going to be about them selling stuff.
Yeah, true.
So, because the same happens in Dates. Rodney says
we were selling it before we bought it.
So they went down the Friday night disco to celebrate, and Rodney met a bird.
Helen, Oh, she really is something else.
Yeah?
I mean, she's tall, she's slender, bit older than me, but, you know, I've been brought up to respect me elders.
Was it her trumpet?
So the trumpet keeps getting brought up, and we'll understand why soon. Rodney keeps going on about Helen, and he tells Albert that she looks like Linda Evans, who played Linda Carrington out of Dynasty. So, as I mentioned...
Crystal Carrington.
Right,
Linda Evans played Crystal
I wrote
Carrington.
Linda. Yeah, she played Crystal Carrington. So we said this last week, the second episode in Series 5 to mention Dynasty. Must have been, John Sullivan must have been a big fan. Albert is actually impressed, and Rodney is very happy to get that recognition. He almost forgets his hangover, and Albert screams for Del again.
Yeah, that's so true.
So Del comes in and immediately diffuses Rodney's excitement. We get this quite a lot, don't we? Like, Rodney will be excited about something and Del will diffuse it. He says,
What, you finally got shot of it then, did you? Well, you know, that old dog that was hanging round you last night.
He told me she looked like Crystal Carrington.
Crystal Carrington? Crystal Bleeding Palace, more like, from where I am.
So Rodney is getting more and more irritated, especially with Albert, because he's doing his signature laugh. I think of this episode as when Albert's laugh really gets formed.
I think so. I actually noticed that he did. I don't think I mentioned it when I don't think you or I mentioned it when you did the episode breakdown, but he does do it in Watching the Girls Go By at the end.
Yeah.
When he talks about the bets. I think I actually made a note about that. But yes, I think this is the first time we really hear Albert's laugh in full.
And I think a lot of the time when something is being used over and over, the first time doesn't really count. It's only when they start to repeat it, isn't it, that it becomes solidified as a signature thing. But
yeah,
it's very much his laugh by this point, and it seems like he was probably told by the production and from John Sullivan to continue using it.
Yeah.
Del said that they call Helen of Croydon, the face that launched 1,000 dredges. Albert offers Del some breakfast, and he refuses with a somewhat telling expression on his face. He seems bothered by something, and David Jason is conveying that already. When Rodney asks Albert for food, he just makes fun of him.
Yeah, we'll give Helen of Croydon a bell.
This is where Rodney adds Del's brute to Albert's kippers. So Del runs over to curse him for wasting it, but with no concern about Albert. Just, he'll waste it. So this is where Rodney inquires about the trumpet, and Del tells him that it belongs to Biffo the bear.
You were so out of your mind at one point last night, you went up on the stage, right, took his trumpet off him, blew down the wrong end, gave him the V sign, and walked out with it. And not in a bad mood, no.
Why?
Well, won't believe this. Some dozy git nicked his trumpet.
So now we see that Rodney is uneasy, and this is important for later. He's afraid. Del reveals the reason for his apparent uneasiness we saw earlier. He informs Rodney that he's going to church. So here is where I started to notice the missing lines that our recording had. Again, mostly just repetitive lines. I didn't really write any of them down, but there's extra lines in here.
Going to church.
Come on, where you going?
I am going to church.
Why?
Del won't explain his reasons, so the audience don't know why he's going to church either. But we get distracted by Albert coming back into the room, and when he tells Albert that Del went to church, Albert says,
Because you come into the pub last night, had a couple of pina coladas and started talking to me about religion. He asked me if I believed God saw everything, and if so, did he take notes? I've seen blokes catch religion before. It's always very sudden-like.
They discuss the idea of Del catching religion, but then they both kind of brush it off, and the discussion is for us too, because it reminds us that Del's not usually the type to require spiritual guidance. Soon, Rodney remembers the trumpet and asks Albert where it is, and Albert says he chucked it down the chute, so he runs off to look for it, and we've almost forgotten about the brute at this point. But then Albert pulls a very funny face when he eats his kippers. This always made me laugh so much as a kid, just the face that he pulls.
Yes.
I took a little bit of trivia here from IMDb, and this is unverified because I don't know where this is from. And it says that the scene where Rodney sprinkles Del's aftershave over Albert's kippers was done without telling Buster Merrifield, so his reaction was genuine. I don't believe that could be true.
No, because I think he'd think there was something wrong. Like, he would have said, like, oh, God, there's something, like, wrong, or I've eaten something wrong. He wouldn't have stayed in character if it had been a complete surprise.
I think Buster Merrifield's professional enough to stay in character, but I don't think that they would have done that to him. They certainly wouldn't put real brute on it, so I don't know what they would have had to have put on it to make him be grossed out.
I think what I mean by that, it's not that he's not professional, it's like his reaction is very theatrical, meaning that because in real life you wouldn't stop and pull a face before you went and took it out your mouth. You just go like the second you tasted it, you would be like and spit it out, whereas he reacts, goes like and then goes and then reaches into his mouth. So like that sort of the way he reacts to me is very theatrical, which is why I don't think it was a spontaneous reaction.
Yeah, I have no idea, because a lot of the time the trivia on IMDb is that people don't put the source, which is fine, but then people vote for it. And often if you see a piece of trivia with a lot of downvotes, I usually feel like that means it's either not true or people think it's silly.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true either, but I don't like to use the trivia from IMDb because I only really like to use quotes that I know are true from the official sources. That, to me, I'm not sure if that's true. If anyone knows, or if they've read it in a book where it's an official source, let me know.
Well, I'd also like to know if that is the case. Are they implying that they put real aftershave on Albert's food?
Yeah, which they wouldn't do.
Because that's surely, that's like a health and safety issue, surely.
Yeah.
You can't make your actors eat something like that.
No, and also it was shot in front of a live studio audience, so to do something like that to Buster Merrifield when we know that the studio shoots, they were tight on time and stuff, so I don't think the production team would appreciate goofing around, but we don't know. That's the end of that scene. Did you have any notes, dude?
Yeah, so I just mentioned not only is it common to see Rodney hungover in the first shot, but also we get Albert shouting in later episodes.
Yeah.
I think in series 6 and 7 especially, we get a lot of episodes beginning with Rodney hungover and Albert shouting or having a go at him because he should be at work and he isn't. So this dynamic is set up in this episode.
Yeah.
When Rodney said that Helen was a bit older than him, I wonder if she's as old as Irene. That's what I thought. So here was one of the lines that was cut, which I thought was interesting.
She did look like her, actually, from a distance.
Yeah, that's right. 3 miles and in a thick fog.
I guess that was cut for time because that's actually a joke, but it didn't get a laugh. But that definitely wasn't in the original airing, yeah.
Maybe they cut it because it didn't get a laugh and they were like, oh, it's weak. Yeah.
Could be. I mean, I guess that's something that you would do if you got a comedy show, things that don't. But then, thank goodness, they didn't do that to the Dave joke in earlier episodes. So as you mentioned, we get an abundance of Albert's laugh in this scene. We get it quite a few times, which is, wonderful. I wonder why Biffo didn't go after Rodney last night, the moment that he nicked his trumpet.
Yeah,
because it seems to me that Biffo's a big guy. So Rodney coming up on the stage and giving him the V, that would have been enough, I think, for Biffo to just grab it back and attack Rodney in that moment or chase after him. It seems that, considering he runs after him pretty aggressively in the last scene, it doesn't seem that Biffo would be the kind of guy that would have been like, oh, he's drunk, let him go.
Yeah, because what else was Biffo going to do on stage without his trumpet?
Yeah,
he may as well have run off the stage.
So yeah, it seems a bit silly, but obviously for the effect. That was all I had.
Okay, so we're going to cut to the rubbish shoot now. So first note I have here is that this was not filmed on the North Acton estate because they were on location. They would have had to drive all the way to the North Acton estate just to film this shot. So they didn't. They shot this in a block of flats that actually neighboured the church that they used for the church scenes in this episode. So
that makes sense.
Rodney's rummaging through the rubbish and he sees something really disgusting. What do you think he sees?
Yeah, so I actually put that. I said I've always wondered what grosses Rodney out so much in that dust shoot, and I obviously you can imagine all sorts of things. I always thought it was like a used condom.
That's what I thought.
Like that was full of semen, because that would make anyone go, ugh, who checks something like that down the chute? That would make sense. But it could also be something really gross, like that someone's cooked.
It could be anything.
Or maybe even a dead animal that someone, like a pet or something like that, has been chucked down. I mean, that would maybe not be so gross as it would be heartbreaking, but then it depends on the person seeing it. So, yeah, I'm not sure what it is. Please put your comments down for what you think. Please put your comments down for what you think Rodney sees in the dust chute when he goes,
something like that down a chute.
Well, what I want to know is, was it normal in the 80s and is it normal now to throw loose rubbish like that? They have a strict rule in our building. It has to be bagged.
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure, because where I live, there's no sort of communal chute or anything like that. In tower blocks and high rises, I don't really know. Maybe it's not as common now, you're right, for environmental reasons, but I don't know. I mean, there must be some old buildings that still have a chute that you put your rubbish down.
I mean, obviously, now for our building, you have a chute for regular trash and everything else goes in the recycling, and then food and stuff would go in the compost. So this is the 80s, and I'm guessing there was no rules about bagging trash, and everybody just throws everything down there. So when Rodney does find the trumpet, it's in a terrible state.
I don't believe it. How can I give it back to Biffo? He's bound to notice.
Albert! I hate you, Albert!
And then we get the disgusting shot of Albert's breakfast landing on Rodney.
Now, I'm not being funny. That does not look like Albert's breakfast.
It doesn't, no. And I'm
That
guessing...
doesn't look like what he was eating.
Because I don't think the kippers would have had as good of an effect because it would have just bounced off his head. This scene is extended as well, isn't it? Like, way extended.
Yes, where you do see the kipper. Yeah. I know. I thought that because I was like, you don't see the kipper in the version that we had recorded. No. It just cuts off when the food goes on and it ends. Yeah. But in this version,
it looks like porridge.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like, or like scrambled egg or something. Yeah. But yeah, like in the extended version, he picks up Albert's kipper and smells it.
Right, he smells it, and then he says Albert. Right, he mouths Albert.
He says Albert. Yeah.
So yeah, I noticed that, and that's weird. It's about 30 seconds, maybe even of extra time here. Maybe not quite that long, but it's long enough to be significant. And because we know this episode like the back of our hands is stuck in my mind, I was like, oh, wow, he actually picks up the kipper.
Oh, yeah, I noticed every little thing that isn't exactly as it was for the million times that I watched it over and over.
Right. Yeah. So I put a little note here just at the end of this scene that this is the first episode where we see Del and Rodney go off at separate paths. So I guess it is. And I wrote the next scene that we come into really solidifies that. It suggests in the lovely Jubbly book that this lighter subject matter of Rodney's storyline was deliberately written to contrast the more serious storyline that we see developing with Del. It suggests that it was put in for belly laughs. So that's why it's such a simple storyline and it's mostly physical comedy. So it was put in to contrast Del's serious storyline.
Oh yeah, when I was younger, I think the dust chute scene was one of my favourite, and it's something that I did laugh out loud at every time I watched it.
And Biffo, and the whole thing with Biffo.
Yeah.
So it's true that I think we loved that because physical comedy appeals to a lot of people and we were kids, but we still loved the other storyline. But anyway.
Yeah, but again, I didn't appreciate all the later stuff and the next scene in the church as much as I do now as an adult.
Cut to the church, and this church used for these shots was St. Elphege in South... Oh my God, how am I going to say this? I'm going to say it wrong. Southwark?
Southwark?
Okay, it's spelled South W-A-R-K. So how do you say that? Southwark?
W-A-R-K. Walk, yeah.
Southwark. It sounds like an American...
It sounds like you're saying walk in an American accent. Yes, it does. But yeah, Southwark.
And unfortunately, you cannot add it to an Only Fools and Horses location tour because it was demolished in just 5 years later, in 1991.
Wow, they demolished a church. I never thought they did that in the UK. I always think churches were like protected buildings and they're kept for like historical reasons because a lot of them have very beautiful architecture.
They sometimes get rebuilt, I guess, but I don't know. Anyway, this church no longer exists. So we start with a rather moody and echoey shot of Del pacing slowly into the church, and he looks quite nervous as he approaches the front. He does some funny little bows and crosses out of respect.
Which is extended
but he calls out...
in the version that we have.
Yes, it is. It's longer, cut for time. So he calls out...
Shop!
Which apparently is an old-fashioned thing that people in the UK used to say when they were alone in a shop, because when I worked at Holland and Barrett, people used to do that to me, and I was always like... Why are you yelling that? I was like, to me, it seems really old-fashioned, but yeah. So
It is old-fashioned. I don't think you do it now. But then you probably wouldn't have anyone leave the shop empty now either.
No.
Too risky.
And also, it's funny because it's not a shop, but Del yells shop and the vicar comes out.
Yeah.
So Del looks very jumpy and nervous at this point, and the expression on his face is telling us that something's wrong. We obviously don't know, but he heads over to the confessional and he enters. So now we meet Father O'Keefe, who was played by P.G. Stevens, who is actually an Irish actor. So this is a real Irish accent, not a Brendan O'Shaughnessy accent. So he heads over to the confessional and he enters. So it's evident right away that the vicar knows Del. He calls him Del Boy. That's like his nickname. So they have a friendly rapport, and there's a bit of chit chat before Del says,
I have come to confess my sins.
Oh, Del, please. I'd been invited out to dinner this evening.
So we know that Father O'Keefe has no disillusions about Del's line of work. He knows that he sins a lot. Yeah. So here's the interesting exchange of dialogue. A few more extra lines in here that I remember. Again, there's a few lines that were cut from our version. Father O'Keefe says, interestingly here, that he didn't realise that Del was a Catholic. And we learn that he hasn't actually been to that church before or since his parents got married there. So how does Father O'Keefe know Del so well?
Yeah, that's exactly what I wrote. I just said, like, we get to know about their relationship, but then, how does he know about Del's life after he was a little baby then? Like, how does he know about his life after that? I mean, he doesn't, if he's not been to the church since.
And Father
does
O'Keefe...
he go down the pub?
Father O'Keefe must be, like, he married Del's parents. He's been at the little local church in Peckham this whole time, and yet Del doesn't see him. It seems weird. Yeah, it's a little bit contrast because Father O'Keefe clearly knows about Dell's line of work and knows Dell well enough to call him Dell Boy.
Yeah, he even knows about sunglasses.
Yeah, he
Ron and Paddy
knows.
the Greek,
Yeah,
so...
he knows the crime community and stuff. So yeah, it does seem a little bit strange that he doesn't know whether he's Catholic or not, and he hasn't seen him since. Yeah, he hasn't been to the church since he was just a little baby.
Yeah.
So we'll go back and add that to our continuity notes. Joan and Reg, we have down as getting married in 1947. So in the notes, I have Joan and Reg getting married in 1947 and Dell being born in 1945. So that means Father O'Keefe has been at that church for at least 40 years. So that's pretty interesting. Wow. He must have been very young when he married them.
I was going to say.
So Dell starts to explain that he feels shame and remorse and hopes it doesn't matter what religion he is. So Father O'Keefe relents and allows him to continue confessing his one main sin that he says he's going to confess. Dell tells us what's been on his mind.
About a week ago, I bought some gear from a couple of gentlemen. I bought it in good faith, honest I did. And if I had known the full SP, I would never have taken it on, honest I wouldn't. But, I mean, you know, you don't ask, do you?
Well, you don't, Dell.
So here again, Father O'Keefe seems to know every part of Dell's personality. So we're not really finding out the full story here. He mentions he's bought something and that there was more to it than meets the eye. But what? We learn who he bought the gear from.
I trusted these two gentlemen. I believed that they were both honest and upstanding citizens of our community.
Who are these men?
Sunglasses Ron and Paddy the Greek.
Again, we learn that the vicar knows everyone. So also we see that the vicar does not seem to think that this is a very serious sin, and he lets Dell off with the option.
I'll make a little donation to the hospice fund.
He is forgiven.
Even though Dell didn't tell him exactly what it was that he stole.
He didn't, but like I say, the vicar kind of brushes it off. He's not even interested in asking what the sin is. He just kind of says, okay, you can make a donation, and it's over. Yeah. So after this, they take a slow walk through the church. They discuss the hospice. So here we learn that the hospice is going to be demolished because they couldn't raise £250,000 to repair it. Father O'Keefe informs Dell that they still need £185,000. Dell says,
they can't knock it down. And what's going to happen to all the old and sick people living there?
Well, they'll move them out first.
So we learn here that this hospice took care of Dell's mom and granddad. So we know that it has a special significance for him. I think this kind of blinds us from thinking that Dell has any other motives in this episode than to save the hospice, which we know at the end isn't actually true, but that's kind of a reveal that Dell is upset about what he did.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's, it's implied in a way that Dell almost set this miracle up by stealing the roof so they could raise the money for the hospice. But he didn't know anything about the hospice until he came in to confess his sins about taking the roof lead. So it was a total coincidence that this happened while Dell was in the church when the vicar saw the miracle. And Dell would have known, obviously, that it was because of the leak, but then he would have been like, oh, great, now we can save the hospice. So this was an afterthought. So Dell did genuinely go to the church to confess his sins, right?
Yeah. Is it? Yeah, so are you saying that you think it's maybe at this point Dell didn't know that it was the leak causing it? Maybe he thought...
Oh, no, I'm saying he did. I'm
yeah.
saying as soon as he saw... Maybe for like a second he didn't, but I don't think Dell's
He figured it out,
would have known.
right? Yeah.
He would have figured it out. But when he starts talking about, this is your chance to make a fortune, I think that is Dell's way of going, oh, great, I can fix the sin now because I can make the money for the hospice. I think that's why there's so much excitement when the vicar's sort of in awe of the miracle and Dell just jumps straight into, we can make money.
That's plausible.
To save the hospice.
Yeah, because at the same time, his vibes change so much from sadness and remorse to excitement. So it's hard to believe that he was putting on the sadness if he's really that excited by the end, by the opportunity of making money. So let us know below if you think differently. It's quite possible that that's the way that it's supposed to play out to the audience. But when you overanalyze it, at the end, it's hard to say because it's like he knew that he stole the roof, but did he know it was going to cause a leak? So if he went in the church with the motivation of thinking, okay, it's raining today, I'll go to church, it doesn't make sense why he's so sad when he confesses to the
let's be fair. There is absolutely no way in hell that Dell, even if he knew that it was going to leak into the church, that it would have landed on Mary's cheek underneath her eye. There's no way that Dell would have known that. I mean, that is a miracle in a lot of ways that it landed there.
I was going to say, it's actually a real miracle.
Yeah.
It's an authentic deluxe miracle.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, Del didn't know about the hospice
No.
until the vicar told him. So there's no way this was planned to make money for the hospice.
Unless he's acting about that.
No, I don't think so. Because he seems genuinely like surprised, and he talks about, oh, how much have you got so far and all this sort of stuff. Like he didn't know about it.
Right. So this is, just in contrast to last week. I mean, I guess we'll find this out later, but we find out that Del actually isn't keeping any of the money this time. He is all going to the hospice. So normally you would expect Del to be like, oh, I'm taking like a small commission or whatever.
You'd expect him to cream some off, wouldn't you?
Yeah, like he did with the sale of the baby. But
well, again, I think that's why they put the line in the later scene where Albert accuses him of that, and he explains why he's not ripping them off.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, John Sullivan wants to make it very clear in this episode that Del didn't steal the roof from the church. So all. This episode seems like it's making sure that Del doesn't come across bad. So
yes.
So Del says goodbye to the vicar on a poignant note. We also learn that Father O'Keefe has been feeling very defeated and sad lately. Del tries to uplift his spirits before heading to the back of the church. We see Father takes a knee and then walks over to the statue and he whispers,
Sweet Jesus.
And then calls out frantically for Del, who we see is still there, and he's putting his score into the hospice fund.
I'm putting it in.
So Del runs quickly down and looks at the statue, and we see what the father saw. The Virgin Mary is crying.
I was going to say, the original music in this scene hits so much harder, and it's funnier.
It's way funnier
it's so
because
much more dramatic.
Because you get the drum beat on the return shot of their faces. It works so much better. And honestly, if somebody who was obsessed with the episode when I was younger, I hate the new music. I really hate it.
I do. And I hate that they had to use it for all the Damien stuff as well later. I hate that they couldn't keep using the original music because, it is just so much funnier.
Yeah, and I put a note. I put a note about that. I don't even know if we're allowed to put it in this episode because it's so
That's why
famous.
I sang it. Because we couldn't. They can't copyright me for singing it.
Yeah, so every time we refer to it, we'll just sing it. So here we have to discuss the music I wrote, so which never appears on any home media releases. And if you've never seen it in any other way than that, then you should go back and try and see with the original music. So I had to ask Mom and Dad because they're classical music enthusiasts. So it's O Fortuna by Carl Orff, which appeared in the movie The Omen. So same reason that they use it for Damien. It's the little intro every time Rodney gets freaked out by Damien later. But now I wonder if they wish they hadn't used it because they've had to like sloppily edit it out in so many of the later episodes, and they always use this like weird music that kind of goes. It's like really shit.
It's not good.
I was thinking of the Fatal Extraction bit with Cassandra's face, and it just goes and then it's just silent for ages.
It's not. It's very awkwardly edited in that episode. You're right. There's like a long lingering pause where she's frozen and there's no music. And the laughter's kind of slightly there. Yeah, it's weird.
It's very weird. So Father O'Keefe removes his hat and states,
It's a miracle.
Don't get many of them round Peckham.
Del immediately launches into his plan here, which seems very well thought out all of a sudden and very quick. So luckily the father is so absorbed in wonder that he doesn't really question it until the very end. Del is saying that the media will pay through their noses to see
An authentic deluxe miracle.
He manages to convince Father O'Keefe that they can save the hospice, so Del runs away to make a phone call, and we get a really classic line here to the end of the scene.
I don't think I could exploit.
No, you couldn't, Father, but I'm shit hot at it.
You know, when I was a kid, I remember feeling very naughty that Del swore.
Yeah, and actually I bet that's cut out on UK Gold, which is a shame.
Maybe.
Yeah, it could be, unless they missed it. Any other notes on that scene, dude?
You already said this, but first time we see Del's fear of religion. I put the confessional in the church is very public and anyone could listen in, considering it's literally a bit of cloth. If you just came in, you could have heard that from the other side of the church. So I don't know if it's really like that in real confessionals, but that is literally anyone could have heard.
I think that is really like that, or at least it was in the 80s.
I mentioned already we get a few extra shots in the church than we do in the original broadcast in this episode, in this version of the episode that we're watching. I said they already have 65,000 towards their goal. Where did they get that from? Because that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I guess, did he say they've been raising for years? That's still a
Don't
lot.
think he
That's a
said
lot
that.
of money.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, not even with the conversion to today's money, that's a lot of money. So
Yeah.
I just wonder where the church, like a little local church in a place like Peckham, would get that kind of money, because Peckham's not exactly a wealthy area. Well, it is now, but it wasn't back then.
I mean, I think maybe from families and just fundraisers, but yeah, it does seem like a lot that they were
That
able
is,
to raise.
yeah, a lot of money. I said you would have to have very decent eyesight to see those tears on the statue's face. If you think about where they're standing in the distance, I mean, we get a zoomed in shot of the tear on the face. That would be so difficult to see from where they were standing, that it's like exactly coming down Mary's cheek. So yeah, that's a little bit just something I wanted to mention, just being a nitpicker that I am. How do they know it will happen again? So they can charge people to see it?
Well, yeah.
Because Del starts talking about this like, oh my God, we're going to get the media. It's like, what if that's the only time it happens? I mean, miracles, I assume, don't usually repeat sort of so until the media gets there. So I just think it's a bit, like how, if the vicar, I mean, Del obviously knows it's not a miracle, but if the vicar really believed it was a miracle, why would he be like, yeah, the next time Mary starts crying, the media can come and take a photo of that? Because it's days later that the media is there. Like
It's
4
true.
days they are there waiting.
So again, Del knows that it's going to rain again. I always get a feeling
Yeah.
when a miracle's due. So
yeah,
he
Del
knew.
knows, but
Yeah.
why does the vicar think that it would
It's
happen
true.
again?
When in fact,
It's just a bit strange.
you can blame this whole episode for my misunderstanding as a child of what a miracle really was, because I think I thought that miracles could just happen over and over when I was a kid.
Well, to be fair, when you're in school, if you go to a Christian school like we did and you learn about like stories from the Bible, you do think miracles happen all the time, because you talk about all these miracles that happen in the Bible.
Yeah, but the
and all
same
people that-
miracle, like over and
Yeah,
over.
not the same miracle, but even so, like miracles seemed a lot more commonplace when you're raised sort of in a Christian school. Yeah, I just said as well, I feel like we get to know more about Del's soft side in this episode. We get to see a side of Del here with the vicar that we don't ever get to see really with Rodney and Albert. Because Del is not the hard man here. Del is not trying to impress anyone. Del is not sort of the leader of the pack. He's submissive in this scene, very submissive. And we don't really ever see Del in that place or that position in any episode so far.
Yeah, and that's really important because that's why I said John Sullivan said he wanted to explore Del's sort of fear, and he sees the vicar as an authoritarian in the religion area. So yeah, this is the first time that we've seen Del in a church. First time we've seen him. Is it the first time we've seen him talking to a vicar? It is, right? Because he hasn't had
other than like the funeral and stuff,
right? Yeah,
for Grandad. But again, it's not in this situation. Del is like a little boy going in to confess his sins, and that's played up all the way through the episode, right till the last scene, obviously, which is very funny with Del behaving that way. So yeah, I just think it's really interesting to see this side of Del, because I don't think we have seen that until this episode.
So we're going to cut back to Nelson Mandela. Albert's watching TV, and a very angry, freshly showered Rodney comes through the door, holding up the beaten up-looking trumpet in the background. He thrusts it in Albert's face accusingly. He also yells at him for throwing the food down the chute on him.
I found your kipper.
Could have been anyone's kipper.
Oh, yeah? How many kippers wear brute?
So this Rodney and Albert bickering thing does become a fairly strong theme in this series in particular. The next episode starts with them fighting too.
Yeah, I just put they are both so childish. That's what I wrote.
Yeah, it seems like John Sullivan wrote the bickering in for Rodney and Albert a lot, but Albert doesn't bicker with Del. Albert has a very kind of respectful way of talking to Del, doesn't he? And then he offers Del to make food and stuff, which he doesn't.
But to be fair, Rodney is very childish as a character
Yeah.
as well, so I can see why that he would have the bickering.
Well, that's because, yeah, he's forever 24. I mean, if you were 24 forever, you'd be childish too, wouldn't you? So let's see if we get any age references in this series. I know that we do, but yeah, they're coming up in the next few episodes. Here's a little side story that I pulled out of the official Inside Story book about Buster Merrifield. So apparently, during the filming of this episode, David Jason and Nicholas Lyndhurst decided to play a prank on Buster Merrifield. They enlisted the support of John Sullivan. So Sullivan remembers that he approached his caravan and David and Nick said that they had convinced Buster that he was writing an episode where there's a flashback sequence and Buster's only 30, and they told him he had to shave his beard off. So Sullivan said he knew that Buster's beard was his trademark. He needed it for the pantomimes that he was in. So he was told that he would have to tell Buster that it was true. So David and Nick are pretty good at keeping straight faces, but he couldn't. And he said he was trying to take it seriously, but he thought that the joke was too cruel. So when he saw David and Nick laughing through the window, he had to come clean and tell him that it wasn't true. But I feel bad for Buster Merrifield.
I don't know. I feel like that's an initiation
It
thing
is,
in
yeah.
acting circles, especially if you do a show together, you know, on TV. I'd imagine that's something. And you know, you've mentioned before David Jason, he always pulled pranks on people.
Yes,
I remember
it's
the
true.
one he glued Grandad's shoes to the floor or nailed his shoes to the floor or something
Yeah.
like that in an episode. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things I love about doing drama because
Yeah.
you do have like these antics, you know. A lot of the outtakes in sitcoms, there's always these kinds of antics where the cast are playing jokes on each other. You know, if you watch the Friends outtakes, it's always the cast members doing things to, you know, wind up the other castmates to make them laugh in the scene.
I think actually he didn't do the gluing the shoes. That was the ruse that they used to get Nick Lyndhurst into the secret
Oh,
party.
right.
Yeah,
That's
but
it, yeah.
it's a very
But even
David
so,
Jason thing to do.
I was going to say, well, Nick Lyndhurst believed it enough that it was going to happen that he went with him. So, you know, obviously David Jason, you can tell David Jason's a cheeky chappy who would pull pranks all the time. So
They
he's got that kind
definitely do it a lot, yeah. And I think obviously Buster Merrifield probably didn't
a lot of the
care.
time when you get your first prank played on you, it's almost like you feel like part of the team, like it's an initiation almost, which he probably felt quite good that he was pranked because he was like, oh, I really belong now, you know.
Yeah, probably. So back to the episode, and the phone rings, cutting into Albert and Rodney's bickering. It's Del, and he cuts Rodney off complaining by telling him to phone Reuters. So he obviously says, although we don't hear it, that he's seen a miracle. So Rodney responds by saying,
Seen a what? Well, that did bossy boy around.
So then we think Rodney is suddenly taking this whole thing very seriously. He grabs Albert's pencil and starts noting down all the media places to call.
Reuters, TASS, Peckham Echo. Oh, right, yeah, BBC, ITV, right. What about Channel 4? Oh, no, right.
That apparently is an in-joke because Channel 4 was new and not very successful in those days.
But I thought we established that Channel 4 had been around for a while, though.
Channel 4 was launched. ITV was the one that's been around for a while. The three channels that were around with BBC 1, 2 and 3. Channel 4 was launched around the time that Only Fools and Horses was in its first couple of years. So it'd only been around for like 3 or 4 years at this point. So I noticed here that the crowd laughed quite a lot at Peckham Echo. So I don't know, is that a fictional paper? I think
Sounds
it might
fictional.
have been. Yeah, the crowd laughed, so I don't know. Let us know if you know of the Peckham Echo. Anyway, as soon as Rodney hangs up, he reveals that he was not actually as excited as he let on, and he was kind of humouring Del. So he tells Albert what's happening, and it only takes him a second to catch on that something's not right.
Last night he was talking about God. This morning he went to church. This afternoon he's seen a miracle. Then along comes Del, he's in the game 5 minutes and already he's a prophet. Yeah, prophet being the operative word. How's he going to make money out of the church?
At least that's where I remember the scene ending, but it actually
Yes, I know.
unnecessary little spiel here about orthopedic sandals that I've never seen before.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know, it was weird. I understand why they cut that joke.
He's got that consignment of orthopaedic sandals coming soon.
Yeah, so what?
Well, maybe he's got a franchise on a monastery.
But later they refer to the orthopedic sandals again when he says he's going to
Yes.
sell them, right? So did they cut it out the second time? Is it cut out both times?
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
orthopedic sandal through joke is cut.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess they cut it out both times.
I just said I'd love to know how Del described the miracle to Rodney. Because
Yeah.
if he just said, I've seen a miracle, or did he say, oh, there's the Virgin Mary statue is crying? Because if he said something like that, Rodney surely would have said something like, well, wasn't there just some water dripping on the statue? Are you sure it's a miracle?
I don't know if he...
It just seems a bit far-fetched for Rodney to be like, a miracle? Okay, like straight away, because that would take someone like Rodney a bit more convincing, I would have thought. So, but of course, for the story, they have to get there, so.
Yeah, I guess he just said, I've seen a miracle, like do this, do that, call Reuters, whatever. So maybe he didn't tell him what happened because Rodney might have pulled it apart.
I also think it's interesting how Rodney figures out almost immediately that Del is doing this to make money.
Yeah, right.
Rodney always goes there because he knows Del. I think again, this is very in character for him to go there straight away because Del seeing a miracle. How's he going to make money out of the church?
So he's planting the idea in our heads as well that Del's going to make profit for himself, but we don't know yet that he's not. But then when we get to the next scene, we get that clarified for us. So at this point, we're thinking, shit, did he orchestrate this and he's going to make money off the church? So you can see some people dip in and out of these episodes and they just leave with a bad taste about Del Boy. But, you know, if you have to watch this episode in full to learn that Del's not doing anything bad.
And you have to understand Del's character because he never...
Yeah.
He crosses lines, but I don't think he ever crosses... Some lines he doesn't cross, and one of them is about the elderly and the sick. He never cheats people like that, and he looks after, like, old people and stuff. He mentions it about going around on the estate and making sure all the old people are okay. He clearly cares about the community, even though he doesn't mind selling them dodgy stuff, but he also knows they want that because it's cheaper and they know what they're buying, so...
Yeah, it's a very important differentiation. Okay, so we're going to go back to the church now, and we see groups of reporters hanging around inside the church, a few cameras flashing, and we see that Del's looking very formal, and he's got a bunch of contracts. He's standing with Father O'Keefe. He lets us know that several days have passed and the miracle hasn't reoccurred, but Del has no fears.
I always get this feeling, when a miracle's due. Got a feeling it could be pretty soon too.
So hasn't it only happened once at this point? So how does he know that? And he didn't get the feeling the first time it happened.
Yeah, but he knows because it's raining. So this is he looks up when he says that. So that's a tell. So now I think we kind of know it's a scam, but we still don't know how. I think it's probably pretty obvious that it's weather related. I don't know. Rodney and Albert arrive and Rodney looks wet and he's holding an umbrella. So another little bit of foreshadowing. Del tells them to check out the contract. Rodney gasps at the figures here and we get a very important moment.
Look at all those noughts, Rodney.
Yeah.
You can see his game now, can't you?
What are you talking about?
You're going to cream some off, aren't you?
You listen to me, Albert. I am not the sort of bloke who cheats on the sick and the elderly. You put your peepers down there, you'll see that all checks are made payable to St Mary's Hospice Fund.
So now we know that this is a Robin Hood style scam and Del actually isn't profiting, not like last week's controversy I wrote.
Yes.
Hopefully that will make people not hate Del in this episode. So suddenly all the reporters jump up and start snapping pictures. The miracle is back. Del gives Father O'Keefe a knowing look, and Father O'Keefe looks reassured.
First of all, Del can design contracts now.
Yeah.
Because Del is not competent at this stuff in later episodes. I mean, he asked Rodney to do it in Stage Fright.
Right.
And I'd imagine that it would be full of typos if Del designed a contract and he wouldn't know sort of how to put all the clauses in and all the stuff that was kind of legally binding. It just seems a bit far-fetched that Del would be the one who did that. If he said I got someone to do this for me, fair enough, but Solly, maybe Solly Atwell did it. I don't know back in the 80s if this would have been the case, but I don't think nowadays there's no way that people would believe that this was a miracle today. It would be scrutinized. The media wouldn't come and pay the money, before they've even seen it. There would be investigations and everything, and they'd find out pretty quickly that the roof was leaking. It's just, obviously, the fact that they managed to scam all the media, I think, is a bit far-fetched. There would have been people debunking this all over the place, is what I said, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. Let us know if you think this would have been plausible in the 80s, because we were just little kids when this came out. In fact, No, wait, you hadn't been born, had you? Oh no, you were born.
Oh, I was born this year. Yeah. I was born in 86, so yeah, in May. I do like that it's really clear here that Del is a good guy and he's not cheating. We've spoken about that. And honestly, I'm not upset that he cheats the media either. I think that's fine.
Nobody feels sorry for the media in this storyline.
No one feels sorry for them, but I do think that the media aren't going to want to spend money when they don't have to. And this is something that, and we know that Del is charging them a lot of money. So I think that there would have been a little bit more scrutiny before they handed over that money.
Okay, yeah. So it says in the script here that it's then 2 days later after this moment of the miracle. So I originally, when I wrote my episode breakdown, I wrote later that day. I
thought later that day because aren't they wearing the same clothes?
I thought that too, and I don't think they are. Maybe they are wearing the same jackets. But it does say in the script, fade 2 days later. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't think it plays that way to the audience. We see Rodney and Del strolling out, and Rodney is carrying that fundraiser holder thing.
Yes.
I think that might be why it's supposed to be 2 days later, because they wouldn't have raised all the money in one miracle day. So,
one miracle day.
This is where the Australian reporter guy comes in, and he signs the contract. And he uses very typical Australian phrases. I think his only lines are...
G'day, it's truth.
Right, listen.
The crowds.
I wonder if that guy was actually Australian, or probably he was just a big walking stereotype putting on an accent.
Yeah, funnily enough, I didn't write that down. So Del does a little collection before the reporters all go crazy again, taking more pictures, and then he pulls the top of the tracker off the top.
There we are, Rodney. It's done, my son.
This is the happiest day in my life.
Yeah, that's actually the end of that little scene. So that's probably, again, why I thought it was all one day, because it's such a short little... One day? I thought it was just one scene.
Surely everything would look even more suspicious by the fact that they were walking around with this huge fundraising sign.
Right.
Almost like they were doing it to get the funds for that, which is what they were doing. I think that would have made it look even more like a scam for the media.
And all the contracts, yeah. The contracts all say that it's payable to the hospice fund.
Yeah, I just think it's like, oh, we're doing this to raise funds for the hospice. Like, that's clearly what it is. And was it in the previous scene? We might have missed it. The when he passes the collection.
No coins, please, because it scratches the pewter.
I just think, yeah, it's very clear that it's a scam on some level. The media are very dumb in this particular episode.
Yeah, you're totally right. But whatever. Again, I think nobody really feels bad because it's the media and no one cares. Like, they have massive funding.
That's the punchline, isn't it, later?
So it's totally okay to scam the media. So cut to the outside in the rain, and Del and Rodney are putting up their umbrellas as they are approached by a pushy reporter from NBC New York. Comes up to interview Del. So this is Carol Cleveland playing Sandra Cox here, and she is in most of the Monty Python movies. I don't know if you know the movies well enough. Do you know?
I don't know Monty Python that well, to be honest.
Okay, so she's Zoot in The Holy Grail. She is, I put Mr. Gregory in Life of Brian, so does she play a male? I don't know if I got that wrong. And she's in lots of the Monty Python's Flying Circus as well. So many may recognize her, but she's doing an American accent here. So the scene starts to cut back and forth now between Del's interview and Father O'Keefe talking to Albert in the church. We're going to see the moment of realization from Father O'Keefe here.
They have all they need, and so do we. All thanks to your nephew.
Yeah, he brought you nothing but luck, didn't he?
Unfortunately, he also brings the weather with him. Every time he prophesies a miracle, it's been pouring with rain.
So yeah, I wish that we could put a visual in here, but Father O'Keefe takes off at a fast pace and he starts to see the different stages of the water dripping from the lamp.
Yeah, I absolutely love how dramatic his reaction is here. Like, he straight away goes into full meltdown, angry, running. Like, he doesn't even sort of go, maybe I'll go and check that. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Running around the whole church, making noise. Yeah, it's funny.
So it's intercut with Del's interview, and we see the full story unfold. He sees the water coming through the hole in the roof and seeping through the floors and onto the lamp. So he looks really furious, like you say, and he's quite panicked. Cut back to Del's interview, and he comes bursting out and grabs Del.
I would like to think, however, if there is any money left over after repairing the hospice, that they might build a new wing and perhaps name it after me. This would give... Thank you.
What? Hey!
So this is where we get one of my favourite lines from the episode, which is Rodney coming up and taking over the interview, and he says,
Sorry, viewers, the Lord's work calls. Rodney took us.
Now, I wanted to use that as the end to every single episode of the podcast, but the audience laughter drowns it out, so unfortunately we couldn't, but I love it. So then Zoot says cut, and we cut to Father O'Keefe very angrily dragging Del up the bell tower.
So the news anchor's from New York. I wonder if the people thought, he looks like Don Ochetti.
That's Miami.
Yes, but he's a crime lord in America. They've got him on the plane. A news report about one of the most powerful crime families or mafia families in America, going to prison. Surely Don Ochetti's face would have been famous enough for people in New York to be like, oh, Don Ochetti.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe when Don Ochetti was younger, he didn't look as much like Del. Maybe they just morphed into...
But of course, at this point, Miami Twice has not been written, so no one's thinking about Don Ochetti. But of course, I am, because I'm a nitpicker.
So now we're in the bell tower, and Father O'Keefe shows Del and Rodney all the damage and explains how the miracle has been occurring.
This isn't a miracle. It's a flaming leak. Somebody's stolen the lead.
God, no, you can't trust anyone these days, can you, eh?
No, wait, you're in luck. Ain't it? Because we got a load of lead in our gas.
So here is the reveal. Del bought the stolen lead from Sunglasses Ron and Paddy the Greek, and he is finally going to get to finish his confession now, which he should have said when he was in the booth. It seems like Father O'Keefe is very angry with him, but we do get this nice twist at the end where he says,
Are you telling me that just for the sake of a small, decrepit old building, you created this whole tissue of lies and deceit? You deliberately and willingly set out to defraud all those newspapers and television companies out of thousands and thousands of pounds. God bless you, my son.
So Rodney looks really astonished, and Del looks pretty shocked too. That father...
Del just looks confused.
He does.
Doesn't he? He's like,
He does look rather confused. He looks somewhat relieved and confused. Yeah, they both do, and that's the end of that scene.
So my favourite thing about this scene is when he's being scolded and Rodney sort of nudges Del a little bit like, go on, tell the teacher.
Yeah, it's very... It's kind of cute, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's very reminiscent of two young lads being told off by a teacher for something they did wrong, and I love the way that Del and Rodney both play into that, and Del keeps his head down and he sort of does a low nod when he's asking him questions, and he says,
"Look me in the eyes."
And again, it shows that side of Del, that submissive. He's afraid of God. He's afraid of the church. He's afraid of this sort of he's afraid of getting punished by God and the church, and that's the side of Del we haven't seen yet.
So we're going to cut to the very final scene in the street. We just see Del and Rodney walking along, and Del had high hopes for the next few years, but Rodney reminds him that he's lucky to have not gotten in trouble for this scheme. So they both start shaking a bunch of hands, and we only see the handshakes when suddenly someone's hand won't let go of Rodney's. So at this point we've kind of forgotten about Rodney's story, but it's Biffo. Biffo was actually played by Welsh actor John Pierce, and he had worked with director Mandy Fletcher previously on Blackadder 2. He had travelled all the way from Anglesey down to shoot for one day, and then immediately went back to Anglesey after the shoot to continue his work. So he says that "Where's my trumpet" has become one of his all-time signature lines. I'm pretty sure he does conventions as well. So
he literally says it twice, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's his whole performance.
Oh, where's my trumpet? Yeah, that's his only other line. So the episode ends with Rodney being terrified as Biffo yells out,
"Where's my trumpet?"
Rodney tricks him while he runs away.
You see that old man over there?
And then we do get the part of the episode where I could see people judging Del a little bit. Del manipulates all the reporters one last time into filming Rodney's chase.
Do you want to film some authentic inner city violence? Come on, bring your cameras, bring your wallets.
I noticed here that the audience cheering is so loud as the episode ends. This might be the loudest cheer that we've had from the audience so far. So, I don't know if they normally do cheer. I feel like it's gotten more intense.
The fan base would have been getting pretty huge by this point. Series 5 is considered, I guess, one of the strongest series of When Fools and Horses. And the episodes are memorable, the stories, everything.
Yeah. It's considered the strongest series of half-an-hour episodes.
I actually did forget a note I had for the previous scene. I'll just say it now. I'm surprised, considering how much water was leaking from the roof in the shots, I'm surprised only one tear made it to Mary's cheek.
Yeah.
Looks like Mary would have been having a shower from how much water was coming down.
Like you said earlier, it's actually a miracle that it turned into just a tear. So it really was a miracle. It was so well filtered through all those layers that it ended up just being a one drop at the bottom. Like, where did all the other water go? Yeah,
because, it's literally pouring down the wall in one of the shots, which is, I assume, the floor above and seeping into the floor. Crossed the joist, but even so, just the fact that one drop made it onto Mary's cheek, is pretty amazing. Yeah. So, I just put here, why couldn't Del keep going with his plans? Only the vicar, Albert, and Rodney knew the truth. Del's talking about all the things he was going to do, and he was going to go and... actually, that career would suit Del down to a T, being like an evangelical kind of preacher. Yeah. Because... in my opinion, they're all complete charlatans and they lie to people and they just do it to get their money. Del absolutely
But he wouldn't do that. Because he wouldn't want to exploit the religious side because he believes in God.
I don't think I could exploit.
You couldn't.
I'm shit opposite. I don't know. You're right. I suppose from that point of view, if it was regular people, I think you're right, because a lot of the people that those evangelical preachers do exploit are the sick and the elderly. But I think that Del could find a way to do that, maybe without exploiting the sick and the elderly. I'm sure that there's some sort of job out there for Del where he could be some sort of preacher, or even I guess in this day and age, Del could be like a motivational speaker or something like this, because he could bullshit so well. So I just think that sort of career would be very suited to him. Yeah. And I love they were able to call back to the Biffo story at the end, even if it's just a little bit. It's a great way to end the episode. I think the episode ends well because it ends on a high note. It ends on a funny line. And I know obviously if you take this literally, Del sort of pimping out his brother being terrified and running away as people film it. But that's what Del would do. I mean, again, that's pretty in keeping. And I'm sure he knows Rodney could probably outrun Biffo. And if Biffo started to, I'd like to think if Biffo started to really beat the crap out of Rodney, Del would step in.
Yeah, presuming that Del could catch up, but yes.
Yes.
I liked the ending, and I loved it when I was a kid. I really liked hearing the cheers and the applause, so yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so if there's nothing else, let's move on to our awards for the week.
What are you on about? I won!
So as always, we have 3 awards to announce this week, and we'll start with our Plonker of the Week.
Und Plonker, yeah?
So for Plonker of the Week, we will each nominate a Plonker, and we will discuss and decide who wins. So, dude, who's your Plonker for this episode?
Yeah, this one's quite a tough one, because obviously I do respect the reasons and stuff behind it, but I did nominate Del. I feel like Del's always the Plonker.
I didn't.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting then. Yeah, I nominated Del because of the fact that he was involved in the stealing of the lead, even though I feel like it's tenuous. You might be able to talk me into agreeing with your Plonker then. Who's your Plonker?
Oh, I think you'll agree when you hear who my Plonker is.
Okay, who's your Plonker?
The news media are the Plonkers for believing that this was a miracle without any scrutiny and paying all that money to get pictures of something they had no proof at all was a miracle.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Let's give it to the media.
Idiots. Absolute plonkers.
Let's give it to the Australian reporter.
So the media is the Plonker of the week.
Truth.
Right, listen.
Crows.
So this week, Jenny will award the best line of the episode, and I will award the best moment. So, dude, what's the best line of this episode?
I'm going to have to award it to the most famous line from this episode, which is, "Where's my trumpet?"
Trumpet. Yeah, I put that down as one of the possibilities.
Yeah, but I mean, honourable mention definitely for one of my favourite lines, which is the end of the scene with the church, where he says, "I don't think I could exploit..." No, you couldn't, Father, but I'm shit hot at it.
I put the line that the vicar says as a potential, are you telling me that you sought to exploit out of thousands and thousands of pounds? May God bless you, my son. Yeah. That's a great line. And I also put, it's a simple one, but it's funny. I've come to confess my sins. Please, I've been invited out to dinner this evening.
Yeah, that's another great honourable one for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, those are the ones. So the best line is, "Where's my trumpet?" Where's my trumpet is the best line.
Yeah.
And for the best moment, I just have 2 to choose from. One of them is one I mentioned earlier, is a memorable one for me as a kid, Rodney in the dust chute.
Yeah.
With the food coming down and hitting him. Nick Lyndhurst's face is fantastic. And of course, the revealing of the miracle with the original music.
Yes, I think
I would not nominate this with the new music.
No, I would say that should be best moment because it is the best moment of the episode, and also just the cut back with the original music, yes. And if you want to watch both back to back, you'll see what we mean. The other music does not work.
Not at all. So yeah, the Miracle of Peckham, also this shot of them looking at the statue is used in so many of the clip shows about Only Fools and Horses. It's an iconic moment. So that is the best moment of the episode. Okay, so if there's nothing else, drink up, we're leaving.
Okay, so that about wraps it up for this week. We hope you've enjoyed the first 6 chocolates from your advent calendar. So join us next week when we'll be discussing Series 5, Episode 3, The Longest Night. Until then...
Sunrise come every morning,
lighting up the ground all around.
Au revoir, listeners. If you like what you hear and want to contact us, you can email us at longlivehooky street podcast@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces. Bonjour.